Well, welcome back to our final session together this week where the rubber begins to meet the road. And you take your skills of understanding the roadmaps for transformation and apply them to creating a plan for how your DNP project is going to be expanded and grow beyond the life that it has in the clinical practice context where it's designed. So here we are looking at our assignments for the week. This is where you have the opportunity to distill down your reflections and your insights of these models and make them very practical and tangible. So we've been using this model for sustained transformation to guide our process. And in this week's assignments, we're going to do a little bit more reflection to talk about how to use some key components for expansion. So in the scale process, local success and learning begins in a specific practice context. And this is going to be in the location of your clinical practice partner, where your DNP project is designed and birthed. But we want to also think about how this DNP project is going to have a life beyond its design, a life beyond the context where you create it, so that you can maximize the impact that you have, maximize the transformation, the positive transformation for the health and well-being of those that you're serving. So we've talked before about this graph, how at the early part of the course you're going to be doing a lot of reading, model understanding, and internalization. So by this point, we've worked our way through the seed scale model, which is the basis for the model for sustained transformation, twice. We had a brief overview of it at the outset of the course for orientation, and now we've worked through all of the key components. And here at week 6, now you're going to begin to apply these concepts and ideas with greater specificity. So what will you do this week? Well, you have a couple of really exciting adventure pieces ahead of you. The first one is to look at local success and learning. So as we've talked about in the Hazara example and in the Community Health Center example, practice reflection and that process of going through the systematic process of change and reflecting on whether or not we met goals and objectives and reflecting on our process using the evaluation criteria becomes data for us to then go back to the beginning of that process and continue to engage in the process. So it's cyclic, it's iterative, you're continually engaging and learning. So this week you're going to write a plan for how you're going to reflect on practice and learn from it. The second piece is you're going to talk about your plan for expansion and dissemination. You're going to identify one context that is similar to your clinical partner practice context, the place where your DNP project is designed, and you're going to talk about that second context. You're going to compare and contrast it to where you create your DNP project, and then talk about strategies for how you would specifically customize and modify your DNP project to fit that new partner or that new context. And in the rubric it talks about all types of context for expansion. It could be from one unit in a hospital to another, from one hospital to another in a health system. It could be from one county to the next, from one state to the next, one country to the next. There's really no limit in how you conceive of that new scale-up site, but you want it to be similar enough to where you design the project so you can meaningfully talk about the applicability of your project to that new context. And the final piece is as a reflection activity that asks you, why bother plan for scalability in the design phase before you've even designed your DNP project, before you've even implemented or tested it? Why bother thinking about scale up and expansion? So that's week 5. There's a template online on the Blackboard website that will guide you through it. There's a rubric with grading criteria to help you frame that response. In week 6, for the didactic portion of the week, we're going to talk about the catalyst for your DNP project. You're going to describe that catalyst, what it is, and then try to create alignment between various partners or various influences on that catalyst. So, for example, in the context of the community health center, the initial catalyst was the nurse practitioners and physicians identifying incorrect vital signs and poor procedure setup, which impacted their patient flow. But that problem was then created as an opportunity, taken as a catalyst for positive change by one clinician working with the medical assistant team, with the medical director at the local clinic, the medical officer for the whole system, and the quality improvement lead for the whole health system. So that was the catalyst for change. And in your situation, some of the catalysts for change might be the lead committee member for your DNP project, what their expertise is. A catalyst might be your own skill set, interests, or passions, or a particular need that a clinical partner has at this point in time. So you'll talk about the factors that contribute to the catalyst for your DNP project, and then how you're going to bring harmony or alignment between the different components that are driving or sparking your project. In the second part of week 6, when we meet together on semester Saturday, you're going to give a persuasive presentation that updates us on your project. You're going to tell us about your practice context and your proposed DNP project, how it fits that practice context. There will be further description on Blackboard, but you certainly want to watch the Nancy Duarte video called Pimp My Slide that's linked in the syllabus. That will give you the best overview of how to persuade and engage your audience. And then the rubric for persuasive slide presentations is based on Duarte's principles. So when you present at semester Saturday, we're going to do peer feedback evaluation circles where everybody is going to score your presentation using Duarte's rubric, and then we're going to have a feedback circle where people use Welsh's grid of start, stop, continue, consider. It's also posted on Blackboard as a way to help you to improve your presentation and improve the design of your DNP project. So with that in mind, I hope you have a delightful time developing your skills for expanding the impact and scope of your DNP project. Have a delightful week until we meet again.